Good morning, members of the media, guest speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's virtual real estate roundtable event, a special edition to the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards Malaysia, which this year marks its 8th year as part of Asia's most respected regional property awards series. Now, today's virtual discussion has been specially created by the team at PropertyGuru to provide insights into the current and future status of Malaysia's real estate market, and also to assess the prospects, the status, and the challenges in property development and investment during the post-COVID-19 era. My name is Jules Kay. I'm the Managing Director of the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards, and it's my pleasure to host today's discussion and also to introduce some leading experts on Malaysian property, design, and finance to share their knowledge and insights on the market. As you can see from our slide presentation, our speakers today are Mr. Prem Kumar, the chairperson of the Malaysia Judging Panel and also Deputy Director of Jones Lang Wooden, Sheldon Fernandez, Country Manager of PropertyGuru Malaysia, Mr. Leo Leong, General Manager, Kohler Kitchen and Bath, South and Northeast Asia, and Dato Patrick Chew, Senior Partner, HLB Lerlam Chew, who are official supervisors of the awards this year. Each of the speakers will give a short presentation, and then there will be a Q&A session after the speaker presentations when you can drop your questions into the chat box, and we will try to answer as many as we can given the time allowed. We'll do our best to cover all the core topics today, and if you do have questions that you still need to answer after the session, you'll be able to email those to us, and we will share them with the speakers after the presentation. Next slide, please. So before we begin, I would first like to thank our sponsors and partners, particularly our platinum sponsor, Kohler, for their ongoing support for the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards. And we will hear, as I said, from their regional general manager later in the presentation. I would also like to thank our new official supervisor for the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards this year, HLB International, a global accounting and auditing firm with offices across the world and especially in all the countries where we operate. Also, of course, Mr. Sheldon Fernandez, one of our speakers, and the team at PropertyGuru Malaysia, the #1 property portal in Malaysia, for their insights and support as we launch the Property Awards this year. And our media partners, which include PropertyGuru's Property Report magazine, as well as several other well-known Malaysian titles, all of which you can see here. We also have our charity partner, Right to Play, to thank, and official ESG partner, Bandek Foundation, as well as our PR partner who helped organize this event, Clarico Communications. So thank you to all our sponsors and partners. Next slide, please. So before we begin the presentations, I'd just like to give a little bit of background about the Asia Property Awards. Over the last 16 years, the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards have been growing and expanding to include more than 12 different countries around the Asia region. They now set a gold standard in regional real estate for developers, developments, and designers across the region. The reason we can do this is thanks to our judging process, which is consistent, independent, fair, and transparent. And the annual Asia Property Awards Grand Final in December brings together top developers from all the countries in our awards series to compete against each other and be crowned the best of the best in Asia. So over the years, we have established this benchmark that not only provides recognition for developers, but also a quality standard for buyers in countries around Asia looking to invest and purchase homes in different countries. Next slide, please. So on to Malaysia. In Malaysia, as the property market has expanded, our independent panel of judges have been able to recognize and award an ever more diverse range of new developments and respected real estate companies around Malaysia. Last year, as with most of the world, we were presented with new challenges thanks to the global pandemic. And to ensure the safety of all the participants in our Property Awards program, we switched to a virtual gala format, which actually proved very successful as it extended the reach of the Property Awards online to give property buyers more of an inside view of what is going on within the real estate industry, and also to give them a look at some of the top properties coming onto the market each year. You can see there with 17,000 online views, we were able to give a very broad exposure to the best developers in Malaysia. So despite the challenges of the pandemic, we actually awarded over 24 major names in property development last year who made it onto our Property Awards shortlist. These included well-known developers such as Tropicana Corporation, who received recognition as our Best Developer Malaysia in 2020, alongside many other respected developers who received awards for their projects and their achievements. These included Matrix Concepts Group, Ma Sing Group, UEM Land, WCT Land, Land, Tanah Sutera Development, Fieldman Construction, and AME Development, to name just some of the award winners last year. So with 35 award categories, we were able to recognize a broad range of properties in various sectors. And we also awarded our first Malaysian female real estate personality of the year, with Miss Serena Chia from Sunway Group receiving that honor. Next slide, please. So this year in Malaysia, we will combine our virtual physical gala event with a physical presentation to the developers who win awards. And we will live stream all of our Asia Property Awards galas around the region to give everybody an insight to what is going on in the real estate industry in different countries as we emerge from the pandemic. We want to make sure that investors, agents, and home buyers all have a clear view of the most attractive markets and the most attractive properties available to them in Asia. And the best way to measure such success is with our grand final in December. So following the Malaysia Property Awards, the winners will have the right to compete in the grand final, which will take place in early December alongside our annual Asia Real Estate Summit, where thought leaders, tech innovators, groundbreaking designers, and seasoned investors all come together to share their expertise and predictions for the future of the real estate market in Asia for 2021. So that's a quick overview of the awards and what they mean across the region to developers, consumers, agents, and other professionals within the industry. Next slide, please. So moving on to today's event, something of a taster of the Asia Real Estate Summit. Today, I am introducing to you several experts in real estate who will be able to give us more insights on the market in Malaysia, as well as to touch a little on the Property Awards and how they will be presented this year. Our first speaker today is Mr. Prem Kumar, Deputy Managing Director, Jones Lang Wooten, and also the chairperson of the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards Malaysia judging panel. I will hand you over to Prem now, and please feel free to put any questions that you might have for Prem into the chat box during the presentation. Thank you, Prem. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jules. Very good morning to everyone who's present here. And it's good to be, again, the chairperson of the judging panel, and look forward to the awards for this year as well. What I would basically like to take everyone through this morning the first part of it is very much on the judging process itself, and relating to that, how it transcends to the to very much looking at the credibility of the awards. So first of all, what I'm wanting to talk about are the members of the judging panel. I think that's very much the crux of the aspect of being independent, and how it affects the credibility of the awards. Now we have on the judging panel various experts in the real estate fields, and this would include architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, property consultants, valuer being myself, property economists, interior designers, and lawyers. So you'd look at this sort of experts being involved in the judging panel as being very, very important, in the sense that it provides an overall assessment from the different aspects of real estate developments. So it's not just focused on any particular kind of sub-segment of the development, but it's all-encompassing sort of assessment. And that, to me as a chairperson, having been the chairperson for a couple of years, I've seen that the inputs coming from the various different fields, being the experts in the different fields, has been extremely important. Extremely important in the sense that not all of us are well versed, even though we could be experts in certain aspects of the real estate developments. It doesn't mean that we have got in-depth knowledge of the architectural aspects. For example, as me being a valuer and a property consultant in the market, it does not mean that I know every aspect of real estate. So it's very, very important that we have the involvement of these different experts. And also, these are not just experts who have been in the market or in their industry for a short period of time. These are people who have got no less than 20, 25 years of experience, and they are very well versed with property developments and the real estate field in general. So I'm very pleased to sort of being able to work with a set of experts who are very kind of forthcoming with their comments, but at the same time, very constructive comments in the judging process. So that is something which actually has given huge credibility to the Asia Property Awards. And I see that as being a very, very critical, and also from the aspect of the developers themselves and the various nominations which come through, they should be confident enough that there are no biasness. And even in a case where there could be some element of involvement by the judges in terms of any particular real estate development which is a nominee, there would be a process where the judge, that particular judge, or if there are even more than one judge who has got involvement in a particular real estate development which has been nominated, then those judges will actually refrain themselves from being involved in the process of judging. And obviously we have HLB as scrutineers who will ensure that the conflict of interest aspect is well taken care of. So we have not had any issues with the element of conflict of interest, and that, and to me, is also a very important part and process of an independent judging process. The other aspect that I would like to emphasize is the fact that the organizer, PropertyGuru Group, does not get involved in the judging process, and there is no influence whatsoever from the organizer. So the judges are not hard-pressed in any way. The judges are not influenced in any way. Neither are the judges expected to perform in certain way in being part of the panel of judges. It's an entirely independent judging process with no influence whatsoever. And if I move on to the process, and as far as the judging is concerned, it goes through a robust process. There are site inspections, of course, in this current environment where social distancing and elements of that are being at the forefront. We obviously we acknowledge the fact that it's not the same sort of process that we used to have in terms of site visits before, but notwithstanding, it is done in such a way that the judges are comfortable in their assessment, and there are no shortcomings and nothing is shortchanged in as far as ensuring that only the best development would win a particular category of the award. Now, in terms of the category of awards, we have the categories that have always been in place, and we have the various development awards, which are basically residential, commercial, and of course we have got the traditional hotel, retail developments, which are also included in the development awards. But we have some new awards that have been brought into the equation. Now, some of this has been a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic, in a sense that some of the environment related to real estate has changed. And of course, if I take a very, very simple, straightforward example, is the work from home environment, which is very much in place even at this point in time. And if you look at the development awards, there's one which is now catering for the best integrated work from home development. That's item number 16 on the development awards. And there's also the best smart home development, which is item number 15. So these are the innovations in terms of the category of awards that have been incorporated and brought into the equation by the organizer. And we as the judging panel, we feel that over the years, there are various kind of different perspectives to developments that has come into the picture. And it's appropriate that certain kind of recognition should be given to some of this. And if you look at the special recognition awards, for example, on the left-hand column, and that's item number 1 and number 2, where there's a special recognition in ESG. And as most of you would know, ESG is the buzzword in today's environment. There's so much of emphasis on ESG, and a lot of multinational companies, in fact, have imposed this sort of requirement in aspect of their service providers. Equally as important, the second one under special recognition awards, which is the sustainable design and construction. Now, this is again also something that has evolved in more recent times, and the organizer has brought that in. We, as the panel of judges, also see that as something which is pretty much prevalent in the current environment, and developers have actually spent time and effort looking into the sustainable design, especially, and accordingly, that's something that has been an input to some extent from the judges based on what we have seen in the previous years. The design awards have also, if you look at design awards on the right-hand column, there are also some new new awards under the design awards, and that would be again item number 4, best smart building design, and we've also got the best number 6, best co-working space, and of course, without a doubt, one of the very key new design awards will be item number 9, which is the best pandemic response and new normal design. And that is something which I think the organizers have actually looked at it from the perspective of how do developers get recognized for that, for their effort in putting that into place. And that's not necessarily something which is very simple, in the sense that there are cost implications, there are implications in respect of potential marketability, for example. So that's again, as much as the panel of judges are concerned, it is something which gives recognition to efforts which are being put into place by the developers. Now that's basically what I wanted to talk about in as far as the awards are concerned and the judging process. And I will move on to my second segment, which is looking at the Malaysian property market at this current juncture. And of course, as Jules had introduced me earlier, I'm the a senior partner at Jones Lang Wooten, been in the market for close to 35 years, and as such, I would like to share with all of you basically the current scenario of the property market. Now, we are in a situation at the moment where there continues to be fair amount of uncertainty in as far as the market is concerned. When the COVID-19 pandemic came into the equation in relation to the Malaysian property market back in March 2020, there was obviously great uncertainty. I remember I had various discussions with not just property developers, but various property stakeholders. And in fact, the auditors were one of the key stakeholders who were very concerned about how the market would perform, how the market would react to the COVID-19 pandemic. And there were concerns in as far as whether there could be a collapse in terms of the real estate market. Now, if we look at the Malaysian property market in totality, and of course, if you want to focus into Klang Valley, it's also obviously the most vibrant segment of the real estate in Malaysia. We would find that Malaysian property market was actually experiencing some form of a downtrend even prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's sort of the issue related to the market sort of got aggravated, if that's the right word to use, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And some of the issues which were already prevalent prior to that came to the forefront as a result of the pandemic. So in some ways, one would find that it is a sort of a blessing in disguise for the real estate market, because there were a lot of uncertainties which were sort of in the background, but not necessarily came to the forefront. And the pandemic actually brought it to the forefront. And stakeholders in the market, including developers, consultants, and of course the government authorities, started to realize that something has to be done to address some of the issues with the market. And needing to address this does not necessarily mean very extreme measures, but more in terms of how one would be tweaking the products being offered in the market. And that is what happened as a result of the pandemic. And what we see today is that there is a huge realization amongst the stakeholders that the Malaysian market is still, Malaysian real estate market is still very resilient. There is adequate safeguards at the moment. And although we would have a significant oversupply in certain segments, and for example, as most of us would know, the office space is in a fairly significant oversupply situation at the moment. And how would that be addressed? Now, most developers of commercial sites have actually taken a few steps back and not necessarily wanting to embark on any new office developments at this current juncture. So that's typically an example of how the stakeholders have reacted to the market situation. So it's not a case of the COVID-19 pandemic in itself dampening the market, but it was very much some of those kind of demand supply factors, the focus on the segments of the market, all that got addressed a little bit more. In fact, I would say more than a little bit, in order to ensure that there is sustainability from a financial perspective, especially for those developers who have embarked on the projects. So as a result, we have seen the market adjusting itself. Products have been adjusted. Developers are not going sort of berserk in their product offerings. They are more focused, and they are pretty much wanting to ensure that if they launch the project, that project is going to sell. It's not going to become a white elephant. And this is where a lot of kind of relevance that we should draw from is the fact that the market will now have greater stability moving into the future. So the market analysis based on the reports from the NAPIC, for example, the government body which provides information data on property transactions and property volume of transactions, it does show that there has been a kind of reduction in the number of transactions in terms of the volume, but it does not show any significant indicators of the market having a huge potential issue of collapse. So that is very much the blessing in as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned. So I would take that as it has opened the eyes of all the stakeholders to see how versatile and how sustainable we are in as far as the real estate industry is concerned. So it's a period of consolidation, and it's a period where everybody is basically having to refocus and to reassess and to ensure that both the consumers as well as the developers will reach some sort of an equilibrium in terms of their product offerings and the expectations of the market in terms of what's required. We obviously also talk about the affordable housing, one of the very kind of interesting topics that comes at the forefront every now and then in more recent times. And here again, perhaps the government has realized there should be a certain greater sort of emphasis in looking at whether this product which is being offered and this so-called affordable housing, the word affordable in itself, whether it is what is required by the market in a more in-depth sense, as opposed to be looking at it from the surface. So various things have come out in as far as the market is concerned. It is not all doom and gloom, because if we look at the Malaysian property market, we have not had any significant downtrend, not since the 1997 Asian financial crisis. So going back in time, we have had a good run of almost 20 years, and very few real estate markets in the world would have had a kind of a good run for a period of 20 years without having any major issues with the real estate market. So we in Malaysia, especially the stakeholders in the real estate fields and market, should actually tell ourselves that we have been very fortunate. We have not experienced some of the downtrends experienced by other real estate markets in the world. And this is just a blip, a short blip, and hopefully with the vaccinations coming in, and as Jules had mentioned before, the travel bubble and the new norm of doing things and how we get around to doing things, which may be slightly different from before, all this will add to the robustness and the sustainability of the real estate market in Malaysia. So to sum up, it's a market where there are challenges at the moment. We have to deal with those, but it's something which can be dealt with. And as we speak, as of today, it appears that these are the stakeholders are well positioned to be able to deal with these real estate market aspects. Thank you. Thank you, Jules.
Thank you. Thank you, Prem. Thank you very much for those insights. So feel free to post any questions you might have, Mr. Prem Kumar, in the chat, and then we will try to address some of these at the end. Some useful insights there, and good to hear the resilience of the market in Malaysia as we move forward and look towards recovery. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Sheldon Fernandez, who is the country manager of PropertyGuru Malaysia, to talk about more of the consumer trends and sentiments that are taking place at the moment in the Malaysian property market. So over to you, Sheldon. Thank you.
Thanks, Jules. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, members of the media, for taking your time to be with us. So today, after Prem's input around the award, judging panel, and obviously his expert advice or opinion on the market, what I want to share with you really is on the consumer point of view, where at PropertyGuru, we do a survey every half yearly to check the pulse on the ground. And particularly focusing on this new normal around how COVID has impacted their purchase decision or renting decision, for that matter, for when it comes to properties, right? So next slide, please. So just like the rest of the world, I think it's safe to say there's a massive adoption of digital solutions. And based on our survey, when we queried around what is it that they do, or what was the biggest change when it comes to digital adoption, as you can see, social media, adoption of digital news, using connecting each other over chat softwares, etc. Those are the sort of the main activities. And when it came to property, what we realized is there was a higher adoption around the digital platforms, particularly portals. And the interesting thing was the consumer cited the fact that there was more content available there, more data available there to sort of make more informed decisions, things like virtual tours, property market data, price movements, etc. So all these content really helped when they were, sitting down at home and wanting to look for a potential property either to buy or to invest in. So some very, very interesting trend change down there. We expect to see this trend continue clearly because, as of today, the SOPs are still in place. There's restriction in movements. People are discouraged from going out unless absolutely necessary. So we expect to see digital adoption sort of take the forefront in terms of the new way to sort of look or at least search and filter the right properties for relevant consumers. Next slide, please. So really from a sentiment point of view as well, what you will see is in H1 2021, there was an increase in sentiment, and that's really, really positive news because this is an increase from an already high 36% year-on-year in H2 2020. So each half we are seeing consumers become more and more positive around the property market. And some of the contributing factors around these were really some of the initiatives that are currently in place when it comes to helping people to finance or even purchase a property. So things like the low interest rate environment, the HOC campaign that is now extended until the end of this year. There's a lot of incentives put in place by developers around the purchase of new properties. So these really help with the intention or the sentiment in terms of how they feel about the property market. And I think a recent survey by Radar as well, developers themselves are a bit more optimistic around the second half of 2021. Clearly, developers have had their fair share of challenges. Last year, a lot of cost-cutting measures, a lot of holdback around launches. We're starting to see some activity come back in the market this year, but based on the survey by Radar, we expect a little bit more optimism coming back into the market in H2 of 2021, and that's the same reflection in our sentiment survey as well. There was growing positive sentiment, and the buying intention obviously is also something that is growing. So we've seen sort of a wait and see approach, if you like. In the second half of last year, 1 in 3 respondents said that they will continue to go ahead with their purchasing decisions. A lot said they will put it on hold at least for the next year or two. That brings us into the year 2021, and we're starting to see those activity pick up. And you see that in the numbers. So next slide, please. And you see that in the numbers, as you can see from NAPIC's data. Q3 in particular, when you look at the third quarters of the year-on-years, you see that rise in 2020, and that's mainly down to the pent-up demand of the wait and see approach that people took for the first 6 months of 2020. Now, overall year-on-year, I think NAPIC just released the data. 2020 was down by about 10% in terms of volume and about 16% in terms of value. So overall, there was still a slight down, but you start seeing, at least in the Q3s and the Q4s, an increase in activity. And the same is reflected in terms of the consumer behavior on our website. Being Malaysia's #1 property portal now, we garner the most traffic in Malaysia, and we've seen that grow to almost 12 million visits month on month. This is about 2 million more than the nearest competitor, but at the same time, an increase of a significant increase compared to last year. About 80% more year-on-year in terms of inquiries, an increase about 257% in terms of users, and an increased number of content consumption, i.e. people viewing more pages on the site. And again, as I said, we put it down to, based on our survey, the positive sentiment in the market, and obviously the initiatives that are in place currently to help make confident property decisions, largely around the financing environment, the interest rate environment, the HOC program, and these are the main drivers of why people think this will be a good opportunity for them to invest in a property. By far and large, property remains a very, very interesting asset given the times. It's, as Prem highlighted, very resilient market over the last 20 years, fairly stable. Therefore, it's very, very interesting option for investment, particularly for investors. We've seen investors come in the market quite aggressively in the second half of last year, because it's a safe place to invest their money in. At the same time, home buyers, we're starting to see, particularly the younger generation, come out, wanting their own space, and therefore these would be some of the main drivers around wanting to own their own properties. Next slide, please. So in terms of what they prefer, I think there's a sort of an increased favorability, if you like, towards a new property. And some of the factors cited was the fact that, when I get a new property, I'll be able to sort of have new fixtures and fittings, indirectly saying, there's a cost saving element down there, instead of repair, having to sort of up furnish or renovate some of the existing properties. They also like the fact that there'll be no progressive payment schemes, which are, some of the schemes are afforded by banks, some of the schemes are afforded by developers. They get a property in a good condition, environment is a new environment, location, facilities, etc. And like I said, financing options down there as well around HOC and low interest rate. So these are sort of the reasons why respondents are favoring towards the new property, and this bodes well for the sector as well, particularly for developers. As they launch new projects, and they've got that one appeal factor, if you like, across what consumers would like to get from their recent property purchase. So that's really a summary of the consumer sentiment. As I said, we're very focused on the sentiment, and we're glad to share our survey findings with you. I'm happy to take questions as we go along, and I believe we'll be answering those questions towards the end. So over to you, back over to you, Jules.
Thank you, Sheldon. That's some useful insights into what's going on in the minds of the property consumer, property purchasers in Malaysia, as we bounce back from COVID-19. So thanks, Sheldon. Yes, as he said, any questions you might have, please post in the chat, and we'll try to cover those at the end of the presentation. Okay, so on to our next speaker, a special guest, Mr. Leo Leong, General Manager, Kitchen and Bath, South and Northeast Asia for our platinum sponsor, Cola. And Leo will talk a bit about post-COVID design trends and also touch on the CSR aspects that Cola have added to their business model as a response to the pandemic. So thanks, Leo, over to you.
Thank you, Jules. Friends of the media, Selamat pagi. Thanks to PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards Malaysia for having me on this media roundtable. It is a real honor to be speaking with you this morning. Cola is proud to be the platinum sponsor of PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards for the 5th year. The awards give recognition to excellent projects throughout the property industry in Asia. Building a strong relationship with our partners in Malaysia, we hope to continue the effort with PropertyGuru to accredit these outstanding property owners by providing them a platform to facilitate the sharing of great works and projects within the very competitive Asia-Pacific arena. This is also being bold is part of the DNA of the Cola brand. It connotes prominence, bravery, confidence, innovation, and creativity. And we are very keen to work with our partners to show the bold design. We encourage design with innovative and creative ideas, as we believe these two elements are important in the design work. We feel that design courage is a key factor in making big changes in the design world. Our developers and designer partners are also showing strong interest in recent product innovation from us, including many products like our air intelligent toilet, Avid dual sensor faucets, Malaco touchless kitchen faucets, water foil, and many more. I'll get into that a bit later. In Malaysia, we work with many leading developers, and we have secured a number of iconic projects. Some projects include Sunway Montana by Sunway Group, TRX Residences by Lendlease, Forest City, Lake City by Country Garden, Marriott Hotel and Residences, and many, many more. So during this pandemic, we have seen how some of our developer partners have remained resilient and continued with their ongoing residential projects to deliver their commitments to their customers. Wonderful to see that. We are very happy to continue the effort in supporting them and delighting their customers. Asia Property Awards is a great platform to identify and recognize the best talents in the field of innovation and design industry. And we are very happy to continue this partnership with PropertyGuru. Through this platform, we hope to reach out to our present and future business partners and leaders in the property industry. A little bit about Kohler. Kohler has a rich heritage of more than 148 years of history. We manufactured one of the first cast iron bathtubs in the world in 1883 and introduced the industry's first enameled bathtubs and vitreous china toilets and sinks in matching pastel colors in 1927. In the 60s, Kohler excited the marketplace with new plumbing products in vivid accent colors. This is the culture and attitude that we follow within our company to drive innovation and always being on the forefront of product development globally. As a leader in the kitchen and bath arena, we have more than 42 manufacturing plants in 29 locations across 12 countries worldwide. Kohler has been consistently offering new standards in design, craftsmanship, and innovation. Our brand's reputation is rich with compelling accomplishments and bold innovations that stem from a heritage centered on living on the leading edge of design and technology. Our mission is very simple. Our mission is to improve our customers' sense of gracious living in every experience they have with a Kohler product or service. Living on the edge of design and technology, we design products that bring meaningful innovations home. So every day, life is as comfortable and as beautiful as it can be. PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards is the region's biggest and most respected real estate awards in Asia. We believe we have the same values and synergy to promote and recognize developers that have contributed and done great work in these dynamic markets. Let me go into a little bit about what we have contributed in terms of corporate social responsibility during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, we have initiated many stewardship activities, provided support to the most at need during the coronavirus pandemic, with a number of charitable causes and initiatives at a global level. I'll give you some examples. Kohler associates around the world brought their passion and expertise to the fight against COVID-19 by manufacturing face shields in many of our factories in Asia, Europe, and the USA. And these are donated to healthcare workers on the front line to protect their lives, hopefully, when they put their lives at risk every day. In New York, we've run the Kohler Relief Shower Trailer. This is actually stationed at a field hospital in New York, giving medical workers and carers for more than 1,000 patients a chance to shower before heading home to their loved ones. Kohler has also made numerous donations to the humanitarian organizations around the world, providing communities impacted by COVID-19 with essential supplies like food, shelter, and even access to safe water. In rural India, where access to water and adequate hygiene is often in very short supply, Kohler partnered with Habitat for Humanity to provide critically needed hygiene relief kits to more than 5,000 village residents near Kohler facilities. So, what are some of the current kitchen and bathroom design trends that us at Kohler are excited to see in new real estate projects in Malaysia? So these days, kitchen and bathroom products center on a couple of key trends: optimization, intuitive functionality, and economic, as opposed to economic trends. I'll talk about that. Optimization. Urbanization is a global phenomenon that forces us to compress our lives into small places. This means squeezing more into less. As a result, fixtures need to have smart built-in functionalities, optimizing our use of space and allowing us to remain decluttered and in control. Thus, that leads to intuitive functionality. In today's multifaceted and pluralistic lifestyle, that demands the ease of understanding and intuition. Touch interfaces have already broken down the barriers between technology, gaming, and advanced communications, and these have been adopted by people of varying age groups. And the design of everyday objects, where there's perhaps even less opportunity to innovate, has to be somewhat forgotten in favor of fad and trend. And we see a new direction gaining strength where customers seek products that are effortless in every sense, to understand, to use, and to live with. And finally, economic. Now, sustainability has passed a tipping point, we believe, driven by the convergence of the realities of the environmental threats and the recession. Skeptical consumers have realized that long-term savings can be made by investing in sustainable products that last and are durable for the long term, and have converted and adjusted their values to a rational, respectful approach. Hence, economics has converged with ecology. So with these in mind, there are a number of innovative products that we have introduced in the market. I'll give you one example, which is called the Avid Dual Sensor Faucet. This is something that we use at home. Avid is the quintessential expression of today's modern aesthetic movement. It is equipped with a precise sensing technology, which provides reliable touchless experience for the user. It is actually a touchless faucet that not only gives water, but also soap. So in this age of the pandemic and everyone needs to wash hands properly every day as they come home, this is the perfect example of how we integrate our innovation and technology. It's totally touchless. It actually senses accurately for when your hands are there, and it actually prompts you when to receive the soap, when to rinse, and so forth. So true to its origins in design minimalism, it revives a pure way to connect with the eye and the hand. So we're very, very proud to be associated with PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards once again, and thank you very much. Back to you, Jules.
Thank you so much, Leo. Thanks for those insights into Cola's design technology and the new way of staying clean and hygienic in modern lifestyle. Very, very insightful. Thank you. Now, last but by no means least, I am pleased to welcome Dato Patrick Chiu, who is the senior partner at HLB Le Lum Chiu, who are this year's official supervisor for the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards Malaysia 2021. So Dato Chiu will talk a bit about how HLB help to maintain the fairness, credibility, and transparency of the awards, and may also touch a little bit on the market view from HLB's perspective. So thank you, Dato Chiu, and welcome to the Property Awards and the panel.
Okay, thank you, Jules Kay, Managing Director of PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards and Events, distinguished panel of judges, fellow speakers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to all of you. Now, on behalf of HLB, we are very honored and delighted to be selected as the official supervisor of PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards Malaysia for 2021. Next slide, please. Now, during this short presentation, next slide, please. Yep, okay, that's better. Now, during this short presentation, we will cover the following areas: HLB International, HLB Malaysia, role of official supervisor, the judging process, and overall judging criteria. Next slide, please. Now, HLB is a global network of independent advisory and accounting firms. We are dedicated to helping our clients grow locally and across borders since our existence for more than 50 years now. Currently, we are located in 159 countries, supported by over 32,000 people and spread over approximately 970 offices around the world. Next slide, please. We are proud to add that HLB won the accounting industry's prestigious Network of the Year award in 2020 in recognition of our network's commitment to high quality and excellence. And currently, we are the 11th largest accounting network in the world. Next slide, please. Now, this is our global footprint. In the Asia Pacific region, we have a particularly strong presence, covering 26 countries, and of course, including Malaysia. We have over 7,000 people in the region, working out of more than 160 offices. With this strong footprint, HLB has been appointed as the official supervisor of the Asia Property Awards 2021 in 16 countries within the Asia Pacific region. Next slide, please. Now, please allow me to share briefly about HLB Malaysia. Now, in Malaysia, HLB Le Lam Chiu is the sole member of HLB International, with 14 partners and directors, together with a strength of more than 200 professional and support staff. We always strive to provide high quality and personalized services without compromising our independence and professionalism for over 40 years now. Together, we make it happen is our tagline. Currently, we are amongst the 10th largest audit firms in Malaysia. Next slide, please. Just to highlight some of HLB Malaysia's credentials, we are registered with the Malaysia Audit Oversight Board, or commonly known as AOB, which is the requirement for public listed companies to audit public listed companies on the Malaysian Stock Exchange. For information, there are only about 37 firms in Malaysia that are registered with the AOB out of about 1,500 firms we have today in Malaysia. To date, we are one of the only 2 Malaysian audit firms to be registered with CPA AOB of Japan. We are also a platinum ACCA approved employer for both trainees and professional development. Next slide, please. As a full service professional accounting firm, we offer many financial services such as audit and assurance, taxation, accounting, and corporate recovery. Next slide, please. Now we move on to our role as the official supervisor. As an independent third-party auditor, our role as the official supervisor is to ensure that the judging is carried out fairly in accordance with the Judges Rule Book 2021 to uphold the award's good reputation of credibility, fairness, and transparency. HLB will be present in all the judges' meetings to ensure that all the judges abide by the Judges Rule Book, with special attention paid on identifying any conflict of interest. Next slide, please. Now to the judging of awards. Now, judging of the Asia Property Awards is based on very strict criteria that is reviewed and set by the independent panel of judges. Here, we have the judging process in detail, where at least 3 judges' meetings will be held during this process. Now, this year in Malaysia, the first meeting was held last month on the 3rd of March, and that meeting was to discuss and confirm the plans for the Property Asia Award 2021. At the second meeting, an initial long list of entries will be received by the judges. Now, site visits will then be conducted by the judges and representatives. Adhering to fairness and transparency, everyone must declare any conflict of interest to HLB in advance. Judges will not be allowed to vote for entries where they have any conflict of interest. In this entire process, HLB representative will also participate in selected site visits. Score sheets are used to report the judging of the site visits against the agreed criteria. After the site visits are conducted, judges are required to submit the score sheets directly to us, HLB, as the official supervisor for tabulation. Now, during the final judges meeting, which will also be conducted in the presence of HLB, the central panel will discuss, debate, and then finally agree upon the final shortlist, which will comprise of one winner and up to 4 highly commended recipients. HLB will then review and approve the results before sending them to the award organizers. Next slide, please. Now, on this slide, you will find details of the overall judging criteria. This judging criteria has been reviewed and set by the independent panel of judges. For the very prestigious and sought-after developer awards, the judges will very carefully assess the company's reputation, image, environment, social and governance initiatives, corporate social responsibility initiatives, overall track records, display of innovation, and major achievements. As for the development award, the criteria used are design and amenities, location, value for money, use of space, construction and materials, unique selling points, state of completion, and of course, last but not the least, sales success. Finally, the design awards, the judges will look at the use of space, design concept and innovation, amenities, construction and materials, state of completion, sales success, internal and site layouts, as well as sustainable features. So that's all the judging in a nutshell. I hope that we managed to give you a good insight of the whole judging process. As the official supervisor, we are really excited to be part of this year's Asia Property Awards. And together, let's have a very successful year. So with this, I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much. Over to you, Jules.
Thank you, Dato Patrick Tew. Very pleased to have you on board as our official supervisor. And we look forward to working with you in Malaysia as we move forward with the Property Awards this year.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jules. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We will now move on to the Q&A session. All our speakers have now given their presentations. We've had a few questions sent through via various methods in the chat and also by email. So I will ask the questions of our panelists and we will get their insights on various aspects of the market. The first question I have received here is for Mr. Prem Kumar. And I'll ask him now, is that you talked, Prem, about resilience in your presentation today. As the Malaysian property market recovers, we're being asked, do you feel the market will be more in favor of a seller or the buyer? And in that respect, how long do you foresee that it will stay in that direction? So that's the question for Prem Kumar.
Thanks, Jules. Well, indeed, the market, as I mentioned earlier, is in a period of consolidation. There isn't an environment where there are extreme number of forced sales or foreclosures which are taking place. The banks are not, financial institutions are not having a long list of properties that need to be auctioned off. So it sort of shows that the market is in a fairly sustainable scenario, and accordingly, that has not translated into many forced sale situations coming into the picture. So if I would relate that kind of scenario to the sort of comparing whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, I would not actually say it is entirely a buyer's market at this juncture. Yes, there are properties coming in whereby the discounts or sort of the reduction in the pricing as compared to what it was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic seems to suggest that there is a certain element of some people, some property owners needing to sell at a slightly greater discount than what is prevalent in the market. But that does not necessarily mean it's entirely a buyer's market. The changes and the kind of repositioning that has happened in the market, as I mentioned earlier this morning, is very much as a result of some of the fundamental aspects related to demand against supply parameters, and where it could have slightly gone off tangent in the last couple of years. So it's merely adjustments which are taking place, and accordingly, it will not, in my mind, and as much as I can see, it is not entirely a buyer's market at the moment. The sellers, be it the primary market or the secondary market, do still have their call, so to speak, in terms of where the market is, but they have factored in the price reductions which has been prevalent in the last 12 months at least, and even for some developments, it's even gone back to like about 24 months. So those sort of price adjustments have been factored in, and accordingly, there are opportunities. I would call it opportunities for buyers in the market to get a certain potential properties which could be very desirable from a price perspective, and that would be not at large, but there are obviously opportunities available. So I would place it as a fairly equal seller's market against a buyer's market. How we would be there, where we would be in the next couple of months, in the next 3 to 6 months, obviously, you know, it's very difficult to look into the crystal ball. But some suggestions are in place that due to the moratorium which has been in place in the last couple of months since the middle of last year, the actual impact of the financial constraints of either individuals or companies may not necessarily be fully seen at this juncture, and that may be something which can sort of rock the balance a little bit as far as the market is concerned. So it could be a potential a little bit more slanted towards a buyer's market in the next couple of months. So that could be a possibility. Thanks, Jules.
Thanks, Prem. So yeah, so the buyer's opportunities are there, and people should keep looking out for more to come by the sounds of it as the market progresses. Thanks. A question for Sheldon that kind of extends for this from this topic. You mentioned various aspects with the sentiment survey with regard to what consumers look for and what are their priorities. I mean, what do you think pre and post COVID are the most significant influences that you expect to see with regard to how buyers decide on the properties they want to purchase? What are going to be the key influencing factors moving forward, Sheldon?
Thanks, Jules. So I think very good question. You know, it sort of popped up in our survey as well when we were querying around future buying trends, and especially around this new flexibility when it comes to working from home. Is a main play down here, the main factor that was in people's consideration. So with that in mind, some of the survey respondents highlighted, you know, when it comes to buying a new property, some of the key elements that they would want to go for are good internet connection. So these are the new features that came up from our survey respondents. Now it makes sense because one of the important factors when in working from home is obviously good connectivity in order to sort of perform properly. Environment became one of the top factors. So we talk about security, talk about noise pollution. This was one of the top factors as well. And interestingly enough, air ventilation came about as well. From our surveys, right? You know, you don't want to be boxed in, if you like, in a closed environment. You want to have that space where you can, you know, obviously breathe properly, if you like, when you know considering to buy a future purchase, especially around the new environment. The other interesting factor was also location per se. Now, obviously, with the flexibility, you don't need to live where you work, which is, you know, has been the trend all this while, you know, sort of urbanization, going towards the city, trying to live as close to work, trying to avoid traffic, if you like, you know, the convenience of getting to work easily and in a fast, in a timely manner. So we've seen respondents cite the fact that they could go back to their hometowns, which are typically, you know, the towns, you know, if you look at Malaysia, instead of the Kuala Lumpur city center, you're talking about, you know, towns like Seremban, Ipoh, you know, even suburban areas like Puchong, Shah Alam. These are all locations that have now become a good option when it comes to considering where should I sort of, you know, settle down, if you like, now that I have that flexibility. And what helps with all these, obviously, is the fact that the mega projects, particularly around the MRT projects and what have you, have not been delayed, right? They've been ongoing. So that's one good thing that I guess the government has done. They've continued to push ahead with these mega projects. So this helps with the completion of this infrastructure, connectivity around the larger areas and connecting them to various destinations. We've also seen, you know, development take place around pocket urban areas where, you know, you've got a good mix of the right facilities. So it's not just residential, there are office buildings, there are lifestyle assets in the shopping malls. You've got connectivity, which is transportation hubs, etc. So these are all factors that we're seeing play towards a new trend, or you know, what we, as you said, you know, sort of the post-pandemic trends that we're seeing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sheldon. So yeah, there's quite a lot of new factors for developers to consider there as well, right? As they move forward with new projects. Yeah. A bit of an extension to that one for Leo. Yeah, obviously with all these new factors coming into play, home design and how we live in the spaces that we call home will also be evolving in the face of more time spent at home and more health conscious living and lifestyle. I mean, what are the kind of trends in design, especially within your field and Cola's product range, do you think will be the leading trends?
Yes, as we spend more time at home, I think the design aspects, the aesthetics, and certainly these days, the hygiene component is very important. It's getting more and more important. The trends that we have seen is touchless becomes very much a requirement and also a desire. As I've said earlier, some of our products are centered around the non-touch technology. And the ease of use has really increased a lot in requirements. Gone are the days where people just talk about user friendliness. When we're talking about intelligent products, innovative technologies, the ease of use and the usability is also very important. I'll give you another example. In this day and age where people just stay at home so much more, a lot of people actually become mini master chefs. I know that because I have two at home. And one of the products that we have introduced to the market is called Malaco Touchless Kitchen Faucet. It actually allows you to turn on and off the kitchen faucets with just a wave of your hand, rather than touching the actual faucet itself with oily, gritty hands. So that's one of the things that has been very well received. It's little things that we bring to the market based on traditional products and but with innovative thinking. That's an example. Another example I'll give, not only in Malaysia but across Asia Pacific, we are seeing is the reemergence of colored products. Gone are the days when ceramic or sanitary ware products are only white and chrome. These days, there are so many other vivid colors available, and it's actually taking the world by storm yet again, as people want to feel more at home in the homey and cozy environment filled with colors. I think sometimes to combat the doom and gloom of the pandemic. So these are some of the trends we have seen and are also responding accordingly.
Great, thank you, Leo. Okay, I just have one more question that's come in. I think we have time to squeeze this in. Just a kind of overview, probably more for Prem and perhaps Sheldon. One of our media friends has asked about properties transactions volume and prices. Obviously, given the recovery, the current state of the market, what's your view in terms of the volume of transactions and potentially the house price appreciation going forward? Are we looking at further contraction of the market, or do you think things will start to loosen up and we can look to see some expansion, increase in volume, and therefore increase in prices? Prem, do you want to take this one first?
Thanks, Jules. Sure, I'll take the first bit of it.
Yeah.
Well, if we look at the Malaysian market, although there is a perception that things have gone south since about 12 months ago, but in actual fact, the property pricing trend actually went south since 2017, 2018. So there has been a subtle sort of impact on property pricing for almost a period of 3 years, since 3 years ago. And it wasn't very sort of very obvious, in a sense that developers, for example, when they launched their products, there were discounts being given. These discounts were in many different forms, and it wasn't actually seen as a price adjustment in as far as where market pricing were since, let's say, 2018. So it was a subtle adjustment to pricing which was already prevalent. And that had been in place for almost, as I said, since 2018 and up to now. What we have seen in the last 12 months is a bit more obviousness in the price reductions that have come through. So if we look at a sort of a range in terms of the discounts which have been brought into the equation, we would probably be looking at anything between 5%, or maybe even in some instances probably not much at all reduction, and to the top end maybe even 20-25% price adjustments, which have already been reflected if we compare to pre-2018 pricing. So the market has adjusted itself in some ways, though not as I said, not in a very obvious form. What we are seeing today is a bit more transparent in a sense that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously, which I said earlier, has sort of accelerated the market issues and made it a bit more transparent. So most people in the market, the consumers in the market are now seeing that as a reduction in a more definitive sense, as opposed to being a kind of a camouflaged price reduction. So my take is that the market has adjusted itself. Since the last 6 to 9 months, it has come to a plateau in terms of the adjustments. It is not undergoing more significant adjustments, not at this current juncture. But I must caveat that as what I mentioned earlier, which is we may not have seen the true impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in as far as individuals and as far as the SMEs are concerned, and in fact, even in terms of the larger corporations, because some of the moratoriums continue to be in place. And as such, this so-called borrowers, who have got funding from the financial institutions, have got a buffer, probably for the next couple of months. And the real picture will probably, as I said earlier, will be seen in the next 3 to 6 months. But if there was no significant aspect post-moratorium being in place, and there was financial capability of individuals to finance their borrowings, I don't then see any further significant price adjustments coming into the equation. So it may be looking as though it's bottoming out, probably for the rest of 2021. And hopefully there will be some element of recovery towards the middle part of 2022. That's my take on where the property prices are at the moment. Back to you, Jules. Thanks.
Right. So thank you. Thanks very much, Prem. That's very useful, very useful. Sheldon, you mentioned, just to come back to you briefly, another question's come in with regard to the new and sub-sale markets. I think you mentioned that amongst especially new first-time buyers, there's a lot of appetite for new properties. Is there still also, though, from the Consumer Sentiment Survey, plenty of interest in sub-sale?
Well, the short answer is yes. Clearly, when you're looking for a property to purchase, you are open to all options. But as I said, I think from our sentiment survey, they were leaning more towards the subsale because there was a lot of, more towards the new properties, mainly because there was a lot of initiatives in place. And these initiatives run through to the rest of this year, at least, based on what the government has announced. Even the HOC campaign, which was due to expire in end of May, has now been pushed towards the end of the year. So these are only applicable to new properties, which is obviously the reason why people are inclined towards that option. And also, this then further helps with all the other criteria that we spoke about in terms of new fixtures, fittings, in terms of location, in terms of environment. Like you said, developers are building more towards to suit the current needs or trends, if you like, based on what the consumer is looking for. So all these sort of play into favorability, if you like, for new projects. However, it's not a closed door when it comes to subsale, because those are still in consideration, just slightly tipping towards new properties.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Sheldon. Right, well, I'd like to thank all the speakers. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we won't be able to answer any more questions today. But as I said, there will be some email addresses at the end of the presentation. If you would like to send more questions in, we'll do our best to get the answers back to you by email. So Now, I'd just like to move on to the next slide as we round off. Obviously, first of all, to thank our speakers for their insights and contributions today, Mr. Prem Kumar, Sheldon Fernandez, Leo Leong, and Dato Patrick Chu. Thank you all so much for your time and contributions today. Very much appreciated, I'm sure, by our audience and obviously by all of us at the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards. Thank you, gentlemen.
Terima
Thanks,
kasih.
Jules.
Thank you. Thank you, Jules.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, next slide, please. Also to thank you to our sponsors, particularly to highlight the sponsors and partners from which the speakers came, and to welcome again our official supervisor, HLB, and our platinum sponsor, Cola, who are both very much appreciated as our supporters. And move on to the next slide, please. Quick highlight of a few important dates for the 2021 PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards calendar. You can see here that the nominations and entries for developers, developments, and design categories will remain open until the 9th of July, 2021. After that, we will conduct our site inspections in July and August. And then our virtual gala will take place after the final judges meeting on the 10th of August. The gala itself is scheduled for the 15th of September and will be broadcast live on various channels across the internet. And we will also be presenting our awards in person if the MCO restrictions allow on that same day to the winning developers. So that's the date for the Malaysia chapter of the PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards this year, 15th of September, Wednesday. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, the winners of the Asia Property Awards Malaysia will then have the opportunity to compete at our grand final. So next slide, please. The grand final will take place on December 9th, alongside our annual PropertyGuru Asia Real Estate Summit in December, which we plan to host as hybrid events in Bangkok, Thailand, if the health situation allows, and also there are hopefully some travel bubbles available there for people to visit us in person. So for more information on the awards, as well as the latest news and views on the region's property markets from experts and journalists alike, you can visit our website at asiapropertyawards.com or follow our social media and YouTube channels. We're constantly updating them with insights into the markets where we operate in 15 countries around Asia. Until then, the team at PropertyGuru sincerely look forward to recognizing and celebrating the best of Malaysia's real estate in 2021. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I wish you a safe and productive week, and goodbye for now to everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jules. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, speakers again.